Welcome to CEO Growth Talks, a LinkedIn Live series from Chief Outsiders. I'm your host, Angus Robertson, and today we've got a great story. We're going to be talking about Cask and how they grew 40% year over year for 4 years running. And they did something pretty interesting as part of that. They got involved with an industry forum initiative. So we'll hear a little bit more about that later. But for now, without further ado, let's get to the panelists. Jason, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hey, Angus, thank you so much for inviting me. And it's good to see you, Neil, in this remote world. Jason Rosenfeld, I'm a vice president at Cask. I lead our corporate strategy and growth organization. And been with Cask over 11 years. Started really this initiative we have around digital transformation, which has led to some significant growth in our relationship and partnership with ServiceNow.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that. And Neil, I think I've known you for a little while, but for the rest of the audience, maybe intro yourself.
For sure. Thanks, Angus. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, audience. My name's Neil Anderson. I'm a CMO and partner with Chief Outsiders, and I've been a fractional CMO with Cask for the last 4 years. And I've been kicking around the industry and technology for about 25 years. And I've been mostly in C-level positions. I've been a CEO, a COO, a CMO, but my true love is marketing, and so that's what I do.
Great, very cool. Well, thank you both for being here. I'm excited to dive in. It's a pretty impressive achievement that you've made happen and Cask has made happen over the past several years. Jason, can you tell us a little bit more about Cask and what Cask does for your market and for your customers?
Sure. So Cask is a leading digital transformation partner with our clients. We work with many of the Fortune 500 and a lot of large government organizations across federal as well as state and local organizations. So we are one of the largest ServiceNow pure play partners, and we are the largest organically grown partner in the ServiceNow ecosystem. We are the most awarded partner in the ServiceNow ecosystem over the last couple of years. That's a U.S. regional partner. So we're super proud of all of that. Because ServiceNow has been growing so fast, we've seen some hyper growth that we're going to talk about here today over the past 4 years. And just with some of the initiatives that we have around marketing and sales, it's really helped jump speed or take us to hyper speed over the course of the past few years.
Yeah, that's a cool ecosystem to be part of, the ServiceNow ecosystem, and a big achievement to be the largest pure play ServiceNow partner. So congratulations. And a pretty interesting story about how you came to Chief Outsiders. What led Cask to consider working with an organization like Chief Outsiders and Mr. Anderson here?
Yeah, I mean, we were at that juncture point with our business where we were seeing a ton of growth opportunities. And just because of our relationship with ServiceNow was seeing amazing growth too. And we knew that we needed to be able to better tell our story. We had some great differentiators, but one of the areas of maturity that we were looking to grow was our marketing organization. So one of our sales executives had a relationship with somebody at Chief Outsiders, and he introduced us to Chief Outsiders. So we went through a process, and we got to meet Neil through the process. And we just immediately fell in love with Neil just because of his background with services organizations as well as software organizations. So it was just a great fit for us, not just the experience, but cultural fit too. And it's been a great journey and a great partnership over the course of the past 4 years or so.
Very cool. Very cool. And so Neil, speaking about that, once you got involved with Cask and working with Jason and the team at Cask, I understand you had a pretty bold vision and opportunity between the team to find a path to $200 million. So how did you go about putting that plan together and working with the Cask executive team?
Well, it was pretty easy in the sense that under Jason's leadership and Mark Larson, the CEO, they have a team of really smart people and a team that's not unwilling to make bets. I mean, they're willing to invest if they could see their way to the potential return. So, we started by trying to understand the company, the market, the competitors, the customers, and putting together a strategy, based on the insights that we gleaned from that work, and moving different levers, a lot of different things. But as a services company, we focused a lot, since you can't see the product, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, can't do a demo of it very easily. We focused a lot on things that would help, form a strategy for growth within a services organization. We can talk a little bit about some of those things, but around brand awareness, around digital, building a team, building a content factory, forming these industry forum relationships, and marketing to ServiceNow, which is our key partner in this whole business.
Excellent. So let's get into some of the areas that you both worked on to start executing this and making this a reality. I think, and frankly, it's few companies, and I think it is the great companies that are able to recognize where those growth drivers can be and understand where there might be a gap that can be closed. And then also, as an executive team, something else you said I think is interesting, Neil. It's very difficult to make those choices, make those bets. It's so easy to say, let's just do everything for everybody. But of course, that won't get you very far. So making those hard choices. But Jason, you talked a little bit about one of the first things you worked with Neil on, and that's the brand house, and looking at what the future was going to be for Cask. Can you take us through that a little bit?
I think just the process was so super critical. One of the things that at that juncture point that I mentioned earlier, we needed to make the decision who we were and who we wanted to be, right? And based off of that, and some of our differentiators and our strategy, we were able to put together what Chief Outsiders calls the brand house, right? So the brand house for Cask, and understanding all the components and how we saw ourselves moving forward into the future, as well as how we believe the market was buying, and really that intersection between the two, and to be able to share some of those differentiators and start to strategize how to more strategically use those differentiators in our marketing efforts was a critical piece, especially as we started the relationship. And this is rewinding back 4 years. And you think about where we've come from, where we started from, we've achieved a lot of what we put together in our strategy 4 years ago.
Well, that's great. And just diving into that a little bit, you mentioned differentiators a couple of times, and of course, a couple of times, and also where the market was going. Were there any realizations as you went through that process, kind of differentiators that stood out that you've been able to double down on and really work with?
Yeah, I mean, since really the onset of pulling that together, we found that we have this concept of artisan engineer at Cask, right? Where
Cool.
We're part artist, right, and part engineer. And that's a critical component to what we've been doing. And that goes from an art perspective everywhere, everything from UX, UI, design aspects, really understanding the customer's need and architecture, to the actual engineer in terms of the technical work that needs to be done. So that concept from a marketing and branding perspective and leveraging that moving forward has been not only core to our external marketing, but to our internal marketing and branding as who we all are. We call ourselves at Cask Coopers, right? And if you look back to, the construction of a cask and what that looked like, in the Middle Ages, it was part art and part science. So connecting all of those dots together has really helped us not only differentiate externally, but also internally through recruiting efforts. And it's been super powerful. Leveraging those kinds of things, and there's a number of other things that we do to differentiate ourselves. Customer stories are a big part of what we do. We're a services organization, right? So you're only as good as the work that you do. And having those customers and those references and pulling that together, I just remember when one of the things that Neil did when he first started was really actually talk to our clients, right, and gather the information, taking all of that input and using that for our our brand house was super important for us to direct our marketing efforts over the last few years.
That's such a cool concept, and that really resonates emotionally just when you talk about it. That combination of the artisan engineer, the combination of art and science. That's cool. And speaking of customer stories, I know this journey led you to a keynote at ServiceNow, and Cask was the only vendor keynote or partner keynote at ServiceNow's annual conference this year with 20,000 people. That's quite an accomplishment. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and also what was the story that you told as part of that keynote?
Yeah, last year was an interesting year because of COVID, right? The pandemic broke, and we jumped into full force around what do we do how do we handle this situation? How do we communicate externally to the market? One of the things that we decided to do early on, probably before a lot of other organizations, was who do we help? How can we make a difference?
Yeah.
So we got a call from ServiceNow. Basically, they had a customer City of Los Angeles, with a dire need to get people COVID tests. And we worked directly with the City of Los Angeles, and we did a bunch of stuff just to get them going. And we worked a weekend before the mayor had to speak to all the constituents in LA to get up and running on the ServiceNow platform a COVID testing application that could be used for drive-through. It was just super successful. It was up and running by the time the mayor spoke at the conference. We even had celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal tweet links with the solution. So that was just super cool. But what was even cooler was the impact that we had in terms of second largest city in the United States, being able to get people tested in a orderly fashion, leveraging our solution. So ServiceNow recognized this, and we were the only partner that actually spoke at that keynote. And it was really around the City of Los Angeles story in 2020. Fast forward to 2021, City of LA was invited back to actually speak not only on the solution that we did for them for that, but a number of other solutions that we subsequently did because they saw the value in the work that we did. There were 2 or 3 other solutions that helped their constituents through the pandemic, in addition to that COVID testing application.
That's a great story, and that certainly illustrates the value of a service organization. So we're talking about the growth plan, and we've covered getting the story and understanding the future of where Cask wanted to be. Another key element of that growth plan is the content engine. So Neil, what does that mean? Content machine or content engine? Tell us what that means and how you put that together.
Sure. I will do that, Angus. But before I do, I just want to pull the thread on one little thing that Jason talked about. When we first started creating the brand for Cask, we came up with our brand sort of tagline is transforming the way people work. And if you go back to those coopers and building those casks, it literally transformed the way grains and alcohol were stored and moved. So it was truly transformational. And we connected that story with our story. And to this day, we've been focused on helping people understand that what we do is truly transformational. And the differentiator with Cask is that we have people who are both artisans and engineers, but they're also both business process automation people and technologists. And so they're doing the business process transformation on top of ServiceNow and other technology. And that's what's made the big difference in our business. But back to your question about content. So because it's a service business, and we knew we had to differentiate ourselves as being different, but also being better, than others at what we do. And so thought leadership and content and inbound marketing was a big piece of that marketing strategy early on. And so you're probably well aware that you can have a lot of really smart subject matter experts or SMEs who really know how to do what they do. That doesn't mean that they can go to the mountain with a clean piece of paper and come back down with a 1,000-word blog or a 6,000-word ebook. So we adopted the approach of kind of a long-tested journalistic approach, which is you hire professional writers who are also researchers and interviewers to actually interview our subject matter experts. Do a bit of research before the interview, spend a half an hour with the subject matter expert, go back, craft the article, iterate once or twice, and then take that content, whether it's a blog or whatever it might be, and then leverage it so that you turn it into blogs, ebooks, social media, video, conference and seminar talks, all the different sort of short form, long form, and then produce a very high quantity of high quality content and communicate it. So that was how we created the content factory, and we produce probably 23 pieces of content every week and have been doing that every month, year over year. And over time, I remember the first time we got an inbound lead that turned into a deal, and everybody sort of popped the champagne cork. Now that happens on a regular basis.
No, that's quite a milestone. And it's always a challenge to get the expertise out of those subject matter experts. So that's a cool framework and approach for creating that result. And 23 pieces of content a week, and that's cool. Very cool.
And I would just say, as time has moved on, we've added additional quote unquote offerings, additional solutions, especially as ServiceNow has grown. So we've added subject matter expertise. So as the great thing is the scales, right? So the concept around the marketing content machine, the idea is not only did it work 3 years ago, 2 years ago, but as we've grown and as we've grown our offerings and we've brought on additional folks, this thing has scaled so that we can go after new types of business moving forward.
Makes sense. So Jason, I know as you and Neil worked together and worked with the executive team and put that growth plan and had some pretty aggressive numbers associated with that growth plan, you needed not just the lagging indicators, but also the ability to measure the leading indicators. As you started to think about how you measured success, what did you do to put that framework together, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things is everybody, especially companies our size, growth targets are really important. Setting marks in the sand around revenue, as well as how do you get to revenue, get bookings to get to revenue, and then working with Neil and our marketing team, this concept of reverse waterfall, right? How do you get to the number that you want to get to? So leveraging that concept and figuring out from there, okay, so how many SQLs does that mean? How many MQLs does that mean? And then figuring that out and setting those targets based off of where the end state needs to be was just super, super important. And then you can talk about the activities, how you get to the MQLs, right? So then really the different activities that are required from our marketing staff to get there. And then what do they need from the sales team as well? And how does marketing and sales work together well? That was all really important for us to not only achieve what we've achieved over the past 4 years, but also know that we were achieving it when we were achieving it. Because it's one thing to know at the end, but it's another thing to know as you're going through on a weekly, monthly basis, how you're performing and how your team's performing.
Yeah, that's a very cool concept, the reverse waterfall, and being able to work backwards to what you need, but understanding too where you want to get your leads from, and that there's alignment with sales so they can follow through effectively and see what's working as you're going through it. It's not easy to put all those pieces together. One of the final things we wanted to talk about today on the key elements or key drivers within the growth plan is this industry forum idea that you came up with. So Neil, can you talk about that a little bit more? Because that's a pretty significant endeavor and hard to pull off. So where did the idea come from, and how did you find a way to build momentum and have it really work for Cask?
Well, this is something that you and I have done before, Angus, in a past life with another
Good and
company.
bad, right?
But so the concept was really to try to assemble a body of leaders in digital transformation, because we were trying to be the digital transformation leader in the ServiceNow ecosystem. So we thought, what better way to do it than to surround yourself with other leaders? So we put together sort of a charter and a mission for this group. And then in conjunction with one of the major trade shows before the pandemic, when trade shows stopped, we had the ServiceNow Knowledge Show in Las Vegas, I think it was, in 2019. And we had the inaugural meeting where we assembled some content that we thought would be compelling and interesting to this group, and invited about 15 CTOs, CIOs, and digital transformation executives from some from our customers, some from folks who were not our customers, and an array of thought leaders within the Cask organization to discuss different challenges that they face. So this was a way for us to get closer to our existing customers, but also get those customers closer to our other customers, and see if we could build up, sort of a body of challenges and ways that different companies have met those challenges. And Jason has been largely responsible for guiding those. But Jason, do you have anything else that you want to add to what I've talked about?
Yeah, I think this is one of those innovative ideas that, we brought to the table. It's over the last couple of years, especially with COVID hitting, this has helped keep us connected to our customers, to industry, help them keep all of us connected, right? And share information. So our executive director that runs that, she reports to me. She runs that on a quarterly basis, where this group gets together and we actually bring in speakers, thought leaders, not even just internally from Cask, but externally as well, where we've had CIOs of major healthcare organizations, the CIO from major government organizations talk about some of the challenges around the pandemic. And it's interesting to get different industries together, from major corporations with some government, because even some banks, having the SBA talk to banks and vice versa. Right. This was a forum for people to ask questions, and Cask actually took a step back. We facilitated, but it was an opportunity for them to communicate with each other. And to me, then you're building a community, right? So the concept around it is community. And now we have our own community that's governed by this body that meets on a regular basis. Unfortunately, we haven't had any in-person meetings for quite some time, but it's just good to get people on video and being able to share some of their thought leadership. And a lot of times the best stuff comes when it's customer to customer. And we've seen a lot of fruit, and we've seen our customers build relationships with each other. So it's been fantastic.
A lot of CEOs and companies want to build communities, but they don't know how to, or they struggle doing so. And I think that approach, that strategy, is a very powerful way of starting to make that happen, where Cask provides value through being that facilitator and bringing those groups together. As you went through the process of building that community and that industry forum, are there any lessons learned where you think it's really important to focus and double down, and anything you wouldn't do again?
I think, we have to, as part of this, we had to make sure that we had the right people in the room, right? I think when we first started it, we didn't necessarily, there were a few people that may not have been the right people, but they knew us well. They helped us get started with the community. So I think that there was a lot of value in that, and they're still part of the community, and they're a valued member of the community. But as we move forward, we've been a lot more selective of who we let into the community. So that's just something to think about, because you can't have hundreds of people. Then it's not a small, not tight knit community anymore. Then you got to have multiple communities. So, it's been really good for folks to be able to get together and share their ideas. But I think the one potential pitfall, we haven't seen it yet because we haven't let it get too big, is where you get these communities too big. Our plan for that is to start industry aligning the communities so that as it gets really, really large, that we start to have our financial services customers talk to more of their peers and more of our healthcare customers talk to their peers.
Well, Jason and Neil, I've really enjoyed the conversation so far and the insights that you've provided. As we wrap up this half hour here, Jason, is there any takeaways or tips or learnings that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I think, it's been an interesting ride, right? Neil, we've been at this for 4 years together. And I think if you're at the point where you want help, you realize you're in the maturity part of your journey where you need help, you need to think about who are capable people that are experienced in whatever area it is. For us, it was professional services and technology, to make sure that you have a partner in crime that has the experience, but also is a cultural fit for your organization. It's super, super critical. And I think that's one of the reasons why this has been successful for us, is because Neil had the experience coming in, but also there was just a really good fit from a cultural perspective, not only with our leadership team, but with people in our marketing organization, our sales organization. So that's what success, how I think we've been able to achieve the success, because it's been a great working relationship.
Very cool. Yeah, understanding that need and making sure you have the right partner, both on the expertise side and that cultural alignment.
Yeah.
And Neil, what about yourself? Any lessons learned or tips or ideas to leave with us?
Sure, Angus. I think there's 3 things that I would point to. One is take a strategic view and not a tactical view. It's not about a new website. It's not about a press release. It's not about a brochure or a trade show. It's about many things and which levers you're going to pull to try to move the needle on growth. The second thing is working, with KPIs, making sure that you're showing, good progress along the way. And then the third thing hasn't come up in this conversation, but Jason runs both the marketing and sales part of the organization. And I think that was interesting because it helped us stay aligned, where sales is depending on marketing, marketing is dependent upon sales, and everybody's working together to achieve the goal. So those 3 things.
Fantastic. Well, Jason, Neil, thank you again for the time today, and audience, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to the next CEO Growth Talk with Chief Outsiders. Take care.
Thanks, Angus.
Cheers.